So RISE is a Nebraska-based nonprofit working to break generational cycles of incarceration by supporting people during, before, and after prison. We start inside correctional facilities, offering a 6-month in-prison focus program where we focus on character development, leadership, employment readiness, and entrepreneurship. When people return to the community, we continue to support and walk alongside of them with reentry support, helping them access housing, transportation, healthcare, employment, and family support. But our work doesn't just stop with the individuals. We also engage families, educate employers, and community members, and advocate for policy changes that make reentry possible and sustainable. By connecting people to opportunity instead of barriers, RISE helps strengthen families, improve public safety, and build healthier and equitable communities across Nebraska. When it comes to supporting individuals to prepare for reentry and long term employment, we get ahead of the curve by beginning preparation with individuals while they're still incarcerated. Planning starts up to 18 months prior to release. During this time, we help each person build a comprehensive 18-month plan where they address their housing needs, mental health needs, sobriety supports, and workforce readiness. They also receive training in essential soft skills that help them obtain and maintain employment while navigating their reentry journey. This work is paired with ongoing guidance from their community navigator and employment specialists who continue to provide support and walk alongside each individual after release. Well, that's a loaded question. So, RISE programs help train, coach, and prepare our participants, but employment happens if employers are really willing to hire. Strong relationships create the direct pipelines. So, if we think about the track, it should be training, interview, and then placement. Without employer partners, even if we do all that we can while they're incarcerated and supporting them once we come out, if they are not offering the opportunities, the training kind of just falls. And so, what we try to make sure that we do is when educating employers, we're reducing stigma and correcting the misinformation. A lot of employers have concerns about liability, workplace safety insurance, or customer reactions. So, how the RISE Employment Program actively educates businesses, we go in and we talk about how to humanize everything. We talk about inclusive interview practices. What does that look like? What questions are you currently asking? Do these set of questions work for someone who's been out of the workforce and who has been in prison for 7 to 10 years? We walk them through what is tax credits, support systems that our participants have, but also ensuring them that not just our individuals have supports, but the employer has supports with us as well, partnering with us. So if they have something that they need, they know that they can call on the staff, whether it's issues with um, someone where they're not quite sure what's happening. We have the rapport with the individual where we know, okay, this person is really struggling this week because maybe they had a death in the family, or they may be really struggling with sobriety. But we're supporting them on the back end and being able to show up for the employer to kind of let them know you don't just have to navigate this space by yourself. If you feel someone's off or you feel like something's not happening, they know that they can reach out to myself, they can reach out to their community navigator or employment specialist and say, hey, I'm really struggling with this individual. Is there something I should know? How can I best support them? We also talk about providing post-hire support. So letting them know that they're not alone. We have retention coaching. So if we have someone that's placed at a job that's really struggling with maybe communication, showing up on time, building rapport with their colleagues, we have mediation. So if issues arise, I make sure I'm available for employers to reach out to myself or Brian, who's the employment specialist, to say, hey, we're more than welcome to come in and sit down and help have a conversation to make sure that the individual maintains their employment, but also the employer maintains an employee without having to backfill someone. We give transportation and uniform assistance. So if individuals need steel toe boots or a uniform allowance or anything that they need to make sure that they are able to show up to the job and be ready and successful, we try to make sure that we obtain that for them. We also have open communication with supervisors. So supervisors are able to talk to us. We make sure that our graduates understand that you are supported. So even in the event that the employee may not be doing anything wrong, but our graduate may be in a space where they feel that they're not being treated fairly, or they're not feeling like they're being made sense of community. So we kind of take that information, and that allows us to talk to the employer and kind of sit down with one another to figure out a good way to kind of make this cohesive and make this successful. And then, of course, creating long-term pathways. So when we have individuals go in, it's very important that employers don't just see individuals as a body, but making sure that when they come into the company, that they give them areas for growth, whether that's financial improvement like promotions, as far as title, as far as going into management, making sure that when they come in entry level, if they come in entry level, that they're not just staying there, they have an opportunity to grow. And that just comes with pouring into them. So big picture, employer awareness and industry partnerships, it bridges the gap between readiness and opportunity. Employer education, employer engagement, and internal buy-in within the company. Those supports are essential to successful second chance hiring. Employers have to ensure that their recruiters, their supervisors are actively engaged in educational opportunities, because this is a different talent pool. And so this isn't an area where one size fits all. You have to make sure you understand that there's additional barriers that individuals are facing, where they may need some extra supports or given some extra grace. But also making sure opportunities allow them to meet the individuals and better understand the preparation that they go through, and breaking down the stigma and the barriers that often prevent employers from hiring. Transparency also is very critical, and that's on both ends. And so on our end, we train our graduates to make sure that they are professionally transparent. But at the same time, when I speak with employers and educate employers, understanding that transparency is also very critical on their end. So if you have someone who is coming to you and being transparent about their background, and you know for a fact that you don't hire individuals who have felony backgrounds, maybe you only allow misdemeanors, to just be transparent instead of wasting time to have this person go through an interview and then an in-person interview just for them to get a denial, where we could have just stopped the process in the beginning initial conversation. And all that is because it creates a false sense of hope, right? So when individuals are returning home, they already go through so much, they already have so many barriers. The last thing we want is to send anyone into a space where it's wasted time on for the employer or the individual. And like I talked about prior, with individuals who have put so much work into sobriety, so much work into creating good mental health, the last thing you want to do is add anything to someone's plate to trigger them into possibly falling back into unhealthy habits. So transparency is extremely critical. And then most importantly, have the intention to act. So there's a lot of employers who may say, oh, yes, we hire justice involvement, or we're background friendly, or we believe in second chances, but they aren't hiring. And so the best way to say, yes, we support this population, yes, we understand that this is an amazing talent pool, is to actively hire, not to have one a year, but to actively be seeking out organizations like RISE, and letting us know what opportunities you have, and actually be engaging in hiring individuals actively. Consistency is more important because it allows that rapport to be built, and it's helpful. So repeated success changes behavior. So when someone sees companies, because this is a whole community. So if you have 7 individuals who may be re-entering at the same time. They talk to one another because they're each other's support system as well outside of RISE. And so if someone is saying, oh, my employer is really great, they have supports in place, they work with parole, they're going to share that information, right? So as an employer, if you're very consistent and you are consistent in making sure you have quality candidates, you're communicating, you're following up, it kind of helps you almost predict outcomes and feel confident in hiring and partnering with organizations like RISE. And as far as long-term goals, employers long-term goals and partnerships help employers move out of that occasional hire bracket. Because I am a big advocate for saying background-friendly employers actively hire, not occasionally hire. So if you think about a company that has 100 employees and then 2 of your employees are just as involved, I would call that occasional hiring. So making sure that, like I said before, that they're very active in it and they're really being intentional about hiring out of this talent pool. And then the relationships lead to priority interview slots. So when I talked about it should be having the education piece, the interview, and then the placement, we really want to make sure that when you build a relationship with RISE, you understand that we have poured a lot into our individuals and our individuals have poured a lot into themselves. And so sometimes depending on what area that person is, they may not have 30 days to get a job offer. So understanding that process should move fairly quickly. I'm not saying skip steps, but understand if someone's at community corrections or work release, understanding they have 14 days to secure employment. So when I get a referral from RISE, understanding that, not saying it needs to take priority over everyone else, but understanding that this process should move fairly quickly. So then we aren't continuing to put them through the same cycle. So the first one that I think about, I hear a lot is employers think that it's too risky. And so when I talk to employers about when you think of someone who just applies for a job, right? If you or I to fill out an application for the same position, right? You're not sure what's on my background. You're not sure what's in my past. You're not sure what the things that and mistakes and missteps I've had. What you traditionally should be looking at is does this person have the skill set that's needed for this job? Does this person fit the culture? And do I feel like they're going to bring and be an asset to the company? Those are the lenses you should be looking through. Just because someone's transparent about their background doesn't automatically exclude them or shouldn't automatically exclude them. You should just be looking through the lens of who is this person as an employee? What is their skill set? And is this going to be an asset? That's what you look through with anybody with hiring, right? So I always say hiring anyone's a risk. You can hire someone who hasn't been in prison and they decide this isn't for them and they resign within a couple weeks or a month. So hiring period is a risk. I do not consider it an additional risk because someone has been in prison or incarcerated prior. Matter of fact, there isn't even any data that shows that that's higher risk. There's data that shows actually the opposite. It shows that companies who have hired individuals who have re-entered, they are more reliable, they have higher promotion rates, and they take the opportunity of employment more seriously than anyone else. And then also thinking that they'll be on their own if something goes wrong. So we talk about supports. So whether that's tax credits, whether that's partnering with an organization like RISE, what's very helpful in that stance is that if you do happen to hire someone who is reentering and you have an incident that happens, there are supports and things in place that kind of help with that. But that's going to happen. And that's also a risk that can happen with anyone. You can have 2 employees who just can't get along. And then something can happen with that. And so when I tell employers, all of these risks that you're talking about can happen with anyone. It's not higher just because someone has been incarcerated, and it's reducing that stigma that you think someone who's been in prison is worse or more dangerous than someone who hasn't. And I always tell employers we're all one decision away from being where that person was. They have done their time. They have poured so much into making themselves better people. They've changed their thought patterns, their thought processes, and now they just want to work. So it's just about making sure you just give the opportunity and get to know the person. Another good one I hear is that they feel like it's lowering their standards. And so when I ask them to elaborate on that, they really can't give me a good answer. So I always tell them second chance hiring is about just gaining qualified talent. And it's just taking it from an untraditional talent pool, but a talent pool nonetheless. And then the performance expectations, we're not asking you to change those. You keep those the same. You're just pulling talent from a non-traditional place, which should over time become a norm, just like any pulling from any place else. And so just making sure that we're telling them that no, it's not you lowering your standards. Actually, it's you diversifying your workplace and it's showing and building the morale because you have said, I'm not worried about what this person has done in their past. I am trying to grow my company. I am trying to make sure I have quality candidates. And where they come from, to me as an employer, shouldn't matter as long as they're able to meet those performance expectations. The first step would be to get involved. And so when I say get involved, the very first piece I always say in this place is education. And so employers want to make sure they are attaching themselves to an organization who understands how this works, who understands reentry, because it's a very vulnerable place for some people. But it's also a place where if you are not educated on the barriers individuals face, if you're not educated in understanding everything someone has poured into them, if you're not in a space where you understand all the additional barriers that people face when they come home, it doesn't help build that empathy factor and it doesn't help employers understand why this is so important and why it's so important also to give grace, right? And so what I think about is getting to know not just RISE or getting to know the organization you're tied to, but then also coming inside with that organization or going inside secured facilities to be a part of graduations, be a part of events that that organization has, because it puts you in a room not only with the company or with the organization, it puts you in the room with these very candidates that are going to eventually be released and reentering that may be applying to your company. And it gives you a chance to have open dialogue, to laugh, to get to know them, to hear about their families, to hear about all of the things that they've done and accomplished while they were incarcerated. And what's always amazing to me is that individuals have thrived and have done so much in a system that is designed for them to do the opposite. And so I always tell employers if someone is put in this environment and they are able to get their education, they're able to become sober, they're able to get all these certifications and make themselves ready, like why would you not want to give them a chance? And it's they can get past these barriers and they can thrive and be productive in this type of environment. Just imagine how they would be given the chance to be in a positive workplace, how much they would put in, how much they would be an asset to the company, how much they would grow. Because we're looking at future leaders, we're looking at future supervisors. And so you want to make sure that you are in a place where early engagement is very important, whether that's attending a lunch and learn, whether that's just coming to RISE to get to know the programs and the staff. But then after early engagement with the organization, then look at going inside and getting to know the individuals and the population that we serve. And so understanding these experiences for employers often eliminate that negative stigma. They walk out of those facilities feeling very encouraged, very empowered, saying, you know what, I really want to do this. And so that those would be the first, I'd say wrapped in would be the first steps that I would take as an employer. And after those steps, if you have already taken them, then I would say just the education piece. Before you go down this path of, okay, I really want to hire, do you have the proper things in place? So, how are we recruiting? What questions are we asking when we interview? Are these questions that someone could answer and I could gain the knowledge of them if they've been incarcerated for 10 or 15 years? So, if I could answer the question, Lynette, in a whole, it's to get to know an organization, build that relationship and that rapport, and partner with them. Go inside, get to know the population that we serve, and then making sure that you're continuously educated on what you need to make sure you continuously have that inclusive environment to support the individuals when they're coming home.